Hey, it's October again, a month recognized each year as Dyslexia Awareness Month, all across the world. It's a time to come together to raise awareness, share resources, and tell stories about dyslexia successes. Globally, it is estimated that dyslexia occurs in at least 1 in 10 people, putting more than 7 million children and adults worldwide at risk of lifelong illiteracy and social exclusion. In Nigeria, there are more than 1.5 million cases of dyslexia every year. But the good news is that 90% of children with dyslexia can be educated in a regular inclusive classroom using the right strategies. The Cadet Academy, in partnership with Nessie Learning Global, provides strategies for teaching students with dyslexia. Studies have shown that these strategies are beneficial to students with dyslexia as well as their non-dyslexic peers who are learning how to read. For more information, please visit www.cacademy.sch.ng/dyslexia.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm excited today. As you can see, I'm all red because we're going red for Dyslexia on episode 37 of Finding Out with Special Needs. I remain yours truly, Lola Aneke, and I'm excited, always excited to be here with you every Sunday evening to talk about special needs related topics. And I'm super excited. I'm always excited, really, but particularly because the month of October is Dyslexia Awareness Month. There's several other disabilities that will be celebrated this month, but today we'll be talking about dyslexia. Next week, dyslexia. The week to come, dyslexia. And we'll just round it up at the end of the month with dyslexia. So I'm excited. I know my guests are excited. They're all here already. It's a super day. I want to welcome you all for joining us again. Vicky is the class rep. She's always the first in class. And I think she was the one that said we're in a class, so everyone is here to learn as always. So Vicky, thank you for always being here with us. Thank you. Vicky Wilson Walker. Joan Teaser, thank you. Ozioma Ike, thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone who is here this evening on my Facebook page, on Cadet Academy website, on Cadet Academy YouTube channel. I want to thank every one of you. So today's topic is let's go red for dyslexia, and that's why I'm in red. And I'm sure all of my guests are in red. And we just wanted to just identify with everyone who is talking about dyslexia. And dyslexia is Awareness Month, which is October, is a month where we talk about everything dyslexia, particularly the success stories of dyslexia. You know, someone was saying to me on the platform I was on yesterday that most times you keep celebrating dyslexics in developed countries. But today I have people from different parts of the world. So we're going to be 4 guests today with our sign language interpreter. I hope is here. And then they're going to be sharing their experiences with us from different parts of the world they are located at. And they'll be telling us their experiences and also sharing some of the success stories they've experienced. I believe we have our own success story here in Nigeria. We have all our dyslexia heroes. I believe I've met one. I've met quite a lot, really. But I've met 2 in particular. And I've met some in Ghana. I've met some in Malawi. I've met quite a lot in the US and the UK. So today, without much ado, I would like to invite my guests. I'm sure they're all ready, so I don't even know what I'm going to call in first. Let me get in my sign language interpreter. Hello, Mr. Alex. Yay, he has a touch of red too. Can you hear me? Yes, thank you. Let me get in all my guests. Okay. So I'll add them all immediately. Everyone. Hello. Good to see you all.
Hello. Good
I'm
to see you
excited.
too.
Everyone has got a touch of red. Wow. So we're really going red for dyslexia today. Probably we'll go green next week and then we go any other color as we just want to identify with the dyslexic and the Dyslexia Society. So welcome, 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 Alex again. Welcome, Blessed. Welcome, Manobina. So I'm going to take it again. So Alex is our sign language interpreter. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Blessing is here in Nigeria with us. She is the founder of Dyslexia Help Africa. So I'm signing. Welcome. This is so good.
Thank you.
Jeraji, welcome. All the way from
Hey,
Malawi. Ashley, thank you for joining us from US. Thank you. And Manubina, thank you for joining us from India. Thank you, everyone. Can you all hear me loud and clear?
Yes,
yep,
loud and
yep,
clear.
yep.
Great. It's a full house today. So we'll do our best to ensure that we let everyone get everything they can get from us from the different part of the world we are representing. So today we just decided to tag the topic "Let's Go Red" for dyslexia because it's Dyslexia Awareness Month, and I know each and every one of you have done some great things in this field, and that's why I'm excited to have you all on the show today. So I'm going to start with let's go all the way to India. Manobina, please introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, Lola, hi, everybody.
Hello.
Manubina, I'm an inclusive education consultant, and yes, of course, a passionate educationist. And I'm working in this field for the last 2 decades. I'm based in India, and yes, I in the early stage of my career, I moved to the UK and pursued studies on inclusive education and autism spectrum disorder, and I worked in an autism unit of a century-old mainstream school in Glasgow, Scotland, for a few years, and after coming back to India, I started working for this cause, working for children with different needs. And for the last 10 years, I'm here in India. And at present, I'm leading a team of special educators and counselors and therapists in a special school within the campus of a mainstream private school in Gandhinagar, India. The name of our special school is Saransh Foundation. And I played a key role in setting up this special school in 2016. And also, along with Blessing and Lola, I founded I for Inclusion, a global inclusive education platform. The other teammates are Tiffany of Nasir, Miss Tiffany James, and two professionals from the US, Enid Webb and Therese Boschert. And recently, a psychologist from India, joined us, Archana Garg. So it's a global platform. We are trying to spread awareness about dyslexia, autism, and other different abilities, basically spreading awareness about neurodiversity and trying to empower parents, trying to train teachers. And at the same time, because of this pandemic, we are helping parents by providing homeschool resources through this global educational platform, I for Inclusion. So that's the way. It's nice to be here, Lola. Thank you very much for having me over.
Wow, thank you and well done, Manubina, with all the great things you're doing in the field. Well done. Thank you.
Thank
Now
you.
let's go all the way to the US. Ashley, please do us the honor of introducing yourself. You're a great woman. Everyone here is great, really. So please tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you. So my name's Ashley Roberts. I'm a dyslexia advocate here in the States. I live in Texas. Um, I am one of 3 co-founders of a nonprofit called the Dyslexia Initiative. Our goal is to educate and empower parents about what their rights are when it comes to working for their children's educational rights. We do our best to give them as much information as we can possibly give them, trying to break it down into how best to say, trying to take away all of the scary language that's involved in this and break it down into a way that most people can understand it and feel that it's accessible to them instead of something that's daunting that they can't take on themselves. And hopefully through doing that, give them the feeling of empowerment that they need in order to fight for their children themselves.
Well done, Mommy. I had to
you.
chip that in. You're doing a great job.
Thank
well
you.
done. You're super advocate when it comes to individuals with dyslexia. And I really want you to, when we get to you, I'll be asking quite a lot of questions. I hope you're ready, because I haven't spoken with you and I haven't been with you and read your resume and your bio. It's been, I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine what it was like years back. And then you took the bull by the horn and you've done tremendously well when it comes to advocating for individuals with dyslexia. Thank you for what you've done. Now let's go to Malawi. Terandi, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Jiranji Kamfosi, all the way from Malawi. Well, so I'm the founder of ABLE Foundation, Dyslexia Malawi. So ABLE Foundation Dyslexia Malawi is just there to raise the awareness of dyslexia in Malawi. So we are the first in the whole of Malawi. Yes. Yeah, that's all about me.
Great. Well done. Well done. You know, I have super women here, like super, really, as in the word super, that I'm surrounded. I think Mr. Alex is the most blessed amongst all men because he's surrounded by super women today.
And he's right in the middle.
Well done, Geranji. Well done. Well done. For the bold step. The first, well done. Now, all the way back home to Nigeria, we have Blessed Ngape.
Hi, everyone. Hi, so I'm Blessing Ngape. I am, of course, here at home in Nigeria. I'm a certified special needs teacher, and I'm also the founder of Dyslexia Help Africa. And basically what we do at Dyslexia Help Africa is first to offer intervention services for children with dyslexia or learning difficulties. And then secondly, to train teachers or parents or whoever is interested in learning structured reading methods for teaching children with learning difficulties how to read. And then finally, we also create awareness by telling more people about dyslexia, what dyslexia is all about. Like in this month of October, we're all about reaching as many people as possible to know what dyslexia is. Thank you for having me, Coach Lola.
Well done. Oh my God, I keep saying I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm not even sure which of the episodes that makes me more excited, but I'm always excited. Thank you, Miss Blessing, for what you're doing. I am really proud of you and what you're doing. I'm proud of every lady here with me because I know it's not an easy task, but you still took it upon yourself to ensure that you make a difference in the life of individuals living with dyslexia. Now, I'm trying to juggle my brain and trying to see who do I call because I think I know all of your stories. So I'm really like, oh, which one do I want people to hear first? Which one? Now, many, who do I go with? I go all the way to the US, Ashley, to you. So Ashley, I think I want you to talk to us about, because really, I wanted to talk a lot about the success stories of dyslexia. However, I want us to also look at some of the challenges because there's always the flip side to the story. In as much as we want people to see that we have a lot of success stories about dyslexia, there's still quite a number of people who do not even understand what dyslexia is, and what individuals living with dyslexia are going through, and how even their parents. I've had discussion with quite a number of people, and the first thing I hear people say to me that I wish my parents or my members of my family would understand first. I wish they could understand me. So that's why I think I would want you to start by telling us your experience when you first realized that the first time you met with that word dyslexia. What was your experience? What was the show? How many years ago? When did you hear about the word dyslexia? What was your reaction? And what has the journey been? How has the journey been so far?
Okay, well, first, I'm not wearing red, but my red dog is joining us, so he's going to represent going red for dyslexia for us. But the first time I heard dyslexia, the word dyslexia, honestly, I was in high school. A couple of my friends in high school had it, but it didn't really seem
How long ago was this, Ashley? Sorry. How long ago was this?
Let's say I'm turning 47 this month. So that was 1990.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
About 20 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Yes. So it didn't, one of them, it didn't kind of seem to be that big of a deal for. And the other one, she studied until almost 4 a.m. every single night, making flashcard after flashcard after flashcard. She did quite well in her classes, but she was a twin, and sadly, everybody in her family ridiculed her and called her stupid, and they didn't understand why she struggled so much. But fast forward to 2016 is when my son hit the dyslexia wall. We knew that he was incredibly bright, and I remember the night that he hit the wall, my husband said, "I think he's dyslexic," and I felt like that was an incredible leap to make, but I didn't understand what dyslexia was. I didn't really understand what it meant. And I'm looking at him going, I don't understand how you can look at our son who's crying right now and think that he's dyslexic. And, we talked about it over the next couple of days, and he was like, I'm very convinced that he is. We need to get him tested. So he was tested about 4 months later officially, and got the diagnosis that he was in fact dyslexic. As we fell into this world, we realized that numerous members of my husband's family have dyslexia. I have one nephew in my family on my side that has dyslexia. I now have a great niece with it. And in October, my almost 80-year-old mother looked at me and she said, "Do you know why I always hated reading?" And I said, "No, why?" And she said, "Because the words move on the page." And I was just sitting there going, "Mom, are you trying to tell me that you think you have dyslexia too?" It's been an interesting journey, to be sure. I mean, our son, he reads well. It's been a significant road over the last almost 4.5 years for him. But he reads significantly well. He reads slow, of course, but his comprehension is 2 grade levels higher than where he is, and he keeps working at it every single day. Did I answer your question, or did I miss part of it?
You did. We're coming back to you. Thank you for sharing with us, because what I'm trying to do today, what I'm trying to make our audience understand today is that dyslexia is universal. Sorry.
It is.
So it's not like, oh, it's just because Africans are Africans, they don't know how to read, or because the British can read English, or they speak English, or in Malawi. No, I wanted you to tell us your story as the first time you heard about dyslexia, and how has the journey been. And you've answered the question quite well for now, and I'll come back to you, because I immediately, as you were speaking, a question popped up, and I'm like, let me let you take a break for a minute and then speak with other people, then I'll come back to you to ask you further questions. Now, where am I going to right now? I think I want to go to India. Malumbina, where was the first time you heard the word dyslexia? What was your experience like, and how had it been so far? from the first time, what year? I would like to know what year, and then how had it been in India?
See, first time when I heard about dyslexia, I was out of college, early 2000, and I was working after completing my degree in English literature. I started working as a journalist in a newspaper. And at that time, I think while making something, writing a copy, I came across this word for the first time in India, that in early 2000, dyslexia. And I really did not have much idea about it. I used to think that dyslexia is learning disability. Learning disability and dyslexia are synonymous. I used to think that. But I didn't have this idea that, yes, learning disability can be different. It's not only dyslexia, there are many other things as well. But yes, I came to know about that, and then became interested. And after some times, I left that job of a journalist, and I became interested in learning about special education. And then I came across all these things about all the learning difficulties, and then I studied it. I studied about dyslexia from University of London later on. But yes, in India, the awareness was very, very less at that point of time. And even today, we are in 2020. Um, there are many challenges in India regarding dyslexia. People are, awareness is very less till now. Acceptance is even lesser. So yes, there are problems. I will discuss that maybe later on. So the first time when I heard about dyslexia was in early 2000.
Wow. Wow. The story, so I actually heard about dyslexia 30 years ago. You heard about dyslexia about 20 years ago. Now, let me come quickly. Let me come back to Nigeria. Now, back to Africa. Let me go to Blessing. Blessing, when was the first time you heard about the word dyslexia? And what was the experience like for you? And since the time you heard about it till now, what has it been like?
Okay, the first time I heard the word, okay, it wasn't dyslexia, it was actually learning disability. That was the word, and that was in school. And I think that was in 2009. So, I mean, it was just a course they just breezed on while we were in school. But then the first time I heard the word dyslexia, I think that was during your event that I came for, was that in 2012 or 2013? When I came for that training, I think it was a one-day event. So I was like, oh, okay, learning difficulties. There's more to it. There's something in learning difficulties called dyslexia. Oh, I see. So after that, I understood better. And then after my service year, what we do here in Nigeria called NYSC, and during that period, I took an in-depth training and got to understand what dyslexia is. But I would say my first-hand experience with dyslexia was when I started working with children with dyslexia. So it went beyond just what I have read about to what I was seeing, to what I was experiencing. And for me, it was a time with lots of emotions, because it took my mind back to my peers in school then, right from childhood down to the university. I could look back and see that at every level, I knew someone or some people who had this thing called dyslexia. I could see some of those signs. There were kids in primary school then who could not read and who were constantly beaten when in Africa. So who were constantly beaten, punished for their inability to read. We had people even in tertiary institution, and sometimes I would wonder, how did you get into tertiary institution? Some basic things that they couldn't really do. I was like, wow. So this is what these people have been going through all this while. And I told myself that, well, I wasn't able to help my friends then because I didn't even know what it is or what it was. Yes, what it was. But now that I know what it is, I'm going to shout it out loud and give all the help that I can to every child
Yes.
and everyone with dyslexia.
Wow, well done, well done.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for that beautiful explanation of how you heard about the word dyslexia and what it taught you to do and what you're still doing. Well done. Now let me go to Jeranji. It's still close to home. Let me go to
Yep.
Malawi. And Jeranji, please tell us your experience with dyslexia. Yeah, I know your story. I was about to say, I know this, but no, I want everyone to hear it from you and how the journey has been so far.
Okay. So I got to know about dyslexia in 2011. It was actually through a school where my niece was attending. So my niece is dyslexic. Like I always say that I joke with her, like she's 120% dyslexic. Yeah. So 2011, one of the volunteers from England who came to volunteer at her school is the one who actually identified that, she's got a learning disability, learning difficulty. And then she told us, like, oh, have you ever heard of dyslexia? Because your niece is dyslexic. So that was the first time to hear about dyslexia. But that was 2011. So you hear about it, you start reading about it, you try to find out, like, how can you help a child who is dyslexic? So now you're hoping that after reading everything, you go to school, you enroll her in a different school, and you tell the school, whether it's the head teacher, whoever is there, like, oh, okay, she's like this, she's dyslexic, she needs help and everything. And all the schools would be like, yeah, no problem, we're going to help her. And then, you leave your child, most of the time she's going to boarding school thinking she's doing the work, or the school is actually helping her, not knowing that we just, leaving her there wasting time. It was until 4 years ago when I got back from Ireland, and then I could see that she's still struggling in school. And then I thought of looking for special needs schools, of which I didn't even know that in Malawi we have special needs schools. And then I moved to the capital city where I'm based now. And then I found one school that catered for special needs education. So we took her there. They did the assessment, they did their screening and everything. And then they're like, since she's already a teenager, she should be attending the special needs, but at the same time, she should be going in a mainstream school as well, because of her age, she needs to interact with her friends and she needs to learn other things as well. So I'm like, well, if you think that will help, why not? But I was thinking she should stay like in special needs 100%, so that she can pick up the learning, the reading, the spelling and everything, because she was really behind. And then after a year into school, when I went there to get her results, they were like, I think because of her age, you should start thinking of maybe taking her to a vocational school or any training, any course that she might be interested in, because we are running out of time. So that's where it really hit me hard, like, okay, I think we're getting worse, because I thought the schools are going to help us, but they're not helping us at all. For them, it was more like business. You take the kid, they play in school, and then that's it. So there wasn't much that was done, even if they have a special needs education department in the school. So yeah, that was our experience.
Wow, interesting. Your niece, you said, right?
Yes.
That was the story of your niece. Wow.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for all that you are doing in the field and in Malawi. Thank you. Now, I know we have people from different parts of the world. If I were to ask Ashley what her experience were, it would be very different from what Blessing's experience had been, and also from Manobina. So I'm trying to see if I can balance this to drive it home. So I think I'll start with Manobina. Manobina, I want you to remember that child, the first child you met. So this, you've heard the word dyslexia, fine. in school and all that you've done. But remember, let's go back to the very first child you met that is dyslexic, and what were your reactions? Like, what was it? What were the things on your mind? Like, really, it is for real? Like, I want you to be very, very plain and bear it the way it was, because people are wondering, okay, they're saying, people are listening from different parts of the world and thinking, okay, well, in the US, we know what dyslexia is. It's been, I mean, we have support, we have bodies that support them. But here in Africa, it's still quite a struggle. And I'm not sure that's the same thing in India. So I want you to tell us what your personal experience was. What was the thing that shocked you? What the school, if the child was in the school, what was the parents' reaction? And how did you get by with a child?
See, my first experience with a dyslexic child in India was in the year 2011, after I came back from the UK. And it was a mainstream school. I was working as a counseling coordinator. The school did not have any special education teacher, so I was working as a counseling coordinator. And I could identify that a child who's not performing in the classroom was dyslexic. And when I said that word to the head of the school, the principal, first reaction of his was, what is that? I said, it's dyslexia. I think the child is dyslexic. And I explained what dyslexia is. And the principal said, do not say this in front of the parents. That means you were saying the child is disabled. No parent will take it. And of course, that was a private school. So there are other things involved in that. So we were not supposed to at that point of time in 2011, not supposed to hurt parents' emotions, and parents who are on denial mode at that point. Initially, every parents are. But as a teacher, as a special educator, as a school counselor, I could not make the parent understand that the child has some differences and that can be addressed and the child can overcome that challenge. So that was my first experience. And as I think you can understand that, I don't know, the scenario may be more or less similar in Africa at that point of time. Dyslexia is a challenge for any person to date. It's a challenge. And it becomes even more challenging when it is not diagnosed. And the main problem in India is a multilingual country and faces the biggest challenge in screening. Screening tools are generally developed only in English, but the Indian Constitution lists 22 languages that have been referred to as scheduled languages and given recognition, status, and official encouragement. The total population in India is estimated at 1.366 billion in 2019. And this population speaks at least 22 languages. So except for standardized screening tools in English, there are a moderately used screening tool available in India. So this is called DALI. DALI means Dyslexia Assessment for Languages of India. But this tool is currently available only in 4 languages, namely English, Hindi, Marathi, and Kannada. This implies that the native speakers of all other languages stand a slim chance of being diagnosed. Also, because of the lack of awareness and trained human resource, a very small percentage of only the urban population goes for a screening. Rural India has hardly heard about dyslexia. So that is the main problem. Okay. And the diagnosis report made by a clinical psychologist generally mentions that a particular child has a specific learning disability. The specification here is usually not mentioned. Whether the child has dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, or something else, that is not mentioned. So that is the main problem we are facing in India to date. So maybe we can discuss with others, and after that I can come back and talk about the
Absolutely.
remediation
Wow.
issues. Okay.
Wow. I heard you say quite a lot. And I could just imagine the families in India. I could imagine the schools where even the school head says, no, you can't say that to the parents, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted you to go first, because I understand how things are done in the US. And Ashley will also let us know that. And there have been use of words and the use of reading, learning difficulties, learning differences, and all of those. But imagine, I'm wondering what the body, like the disability body in India, is doing about that. And I'm going to come back to Nigeria and also to Malawi also, because I'm thinking if there's already a body that takes care of that, then it shouldn't be an issue where you are able to call in the parents and say, look, we realize that your child is struggling with reading or whatever it is the child is struggling with. And I can always say to people here in Nigeria, you know, people ask me questions and say, look, if I identify or if I see symptoms or signs of a child with living with any kind of disability as a classroom teacher, what do I do? And I said, well, because in our country, we're still build the body that advocates for individuals with disability. We're still trying to get there. We're not there yet. We have policies in place, and it's still almost like what is happening in India. But I always say to them, I said, look, if as a parent, you walk up to me and tell me, you found out that my child is struggling with something, the first thing that'll come to mind will be like, hold on. Just like your teacher, your head of school said, you can't say that to the parents. You can't say that to the parents. But if you say to me, look, we've found out that this is what this child is having challenging with so and so, kind of something, struggling with something. But we have a professional in house who can go ahead and diagnose that. That could be quite consoling for me, as opposed to just telling me your child has a challenge. You know, that would be very heartbreaking for me. So I think beyond identification, being able to identify what's going on, I think there's a depth of professionals and the tools to use. And we also want to talk about that. Maybe Ashley will have one or two things to chip in to us when it gets to that, because I know the US has done quite a lot when it comes to that. So I'll come quickly back home to Nigeria. Thank you, Manobina, for sharing your story. Your story is not so much different from what is happening in Africa. And I would like to hear Geran just speak to us about what is going on in Malawi. Before we come back to Ashley, and Ashley would give us ideas of what is going on in the US, and then we can come up with something that would be beneficial, so to say, that can fit whatever part of the world we are in, and for our audiences who can see, or what can I do to also play my little role when I find individuals who are living with dyslexia. Now, listen, can we just hear your experiences? Because I know you and I have spoken, and sometimes because of the nature of the way our country is, in as much as we're totally against, I like to just use the word institutionalization. Like, we don't want to just have the individual, because individuals with dyslexia can actually learn with their neurotypical mates. They don't have to be isolated. But the problem we have here in Nigeria is we do not have enough professionals. So most times you find out that special day schools actually want to take them in and help the students. But then the fear is that what are we going? How do we mainstream them back into regular schools, and how will these schools continue? But I know that Blessing at work with students in mainstream school and inclusive schools. What has the experience been like? Was it the teachers that reached out to you? Was it the parents? Was it the child? Was it the school? What has the experience been like working with dyslexic in your field, Ms. Blessing?
Okay, I've had both parents and teachers reach out to me, but I would like to say that I think I've had mostly parents reach out to me concerning their children with learning difficulties. And the experience, it's always appalling most times, because just like you said, we don't have enough professionals who know about this thing or who are well trained on how to teach these children. And in schools, I know that 2 years back, there was a report that showed and proved that 2%, 90%, yes, over 98% of teachers had never, here in Nigeria, have never heard about dyslexia. And that is so true. When I read it at first, I was like, okay, this is just internet stuff.
That was 2 years ago. 2 years
Yes.
ago. Actually, did you hear that? You heard about this 30 years ago. So we have to learn from you. There's a lot you have to teach us. Go on, this lesson.
Exactly. So only 98%, 2% of teachers had heard about dyslexia. Now, 2% have heard. We don't even know about the percentage that knows what to do about these children. So we had a whopping 98% of teachers who have never heard about this. And that is so true. When I noticed that this was real, we were at a conference together. It was you and I think a few years back. And a teacher who has been teaching for 25 years actually said that this was the first time she was hearing about dyslexia. And she has been teaching kids for 25 years. And we all know that with the statistics about dyslexia, in every classroom, there is at least a child with dyslexia. So I kept wondering, these kids, oh my God, what happened to them? Where are they? Because I know where some of my peers who struggled with learning are today. Some of them had to drop out of school because they were made to believe that school is not for you. Go and learn a vocation. I mean, you can read, you can pass exams, you're good for nothing. Just go and learn a profession. School is not for you at all. And I've also had parents who would come to me that, okay, see, I have these concerns about my child, but the school is saying the child will catch up and all of that. I'm like, it's better to find a solution now. It's better to look to diagnose, and let's be sure. I mean, there's no losing here. If we diagnose your child and we realize that it's not dyslexia, that's good. But then if we do, intervention is actually the best thing for your child now. And when parents reach out to me and I tell them what dyslexia is, they ask the school, and the schools are like, what is that? What is dyslexia? I've had over 50% of the parents who have come to me tell me that there's the schools they wanted to put their kids on have never heard about dyslexia. During this COVID period, I got to meet lots of parents because they were looking for help. They said even in a regular classroom, live classes, they knew their kids were struggling. So when this online thing came, they knew it was just a waste of time to put their kids there. So they went for help, looking for help. And when they finally found me, I started intervention online, and I told them more about dyslexia. They got to understand that, okay, these kids can truly learn, but just in a different way with different structured methods. So now the big concern is even for the schools to take the kids back, because a parent spoke to me a few days back that she has been to 3 schools and she had to tell them what dyslexia is. She had to even give them a link to attend the event we're having for October so they can know more about dyslexia. That she doesn't even know what to do. Some of these parents have decided to get a training for themselves so that they can teach their kids on their own. So right now, I mean, the awareness is poor, but even beyond the awareness, even those who know what dyslexia is, the question now is, now that you know what dyslexia is, how do you reach these schools? Like Coach Lola mentioned, I've been to schools where I offer classroom support for kids. And sometimes I just have to sit back and watch the teachers teach these kids. I mean, some of them don't even believe that is a dyslexia issue in quotes. They feel the kids are just lazy. I mean, because I think that's actually the paradox of dyslexia. Because you have kids who are so smart, you know that this child is brilliant. But then when it comes to reading, you just feel the child is pretending and all of that. So we still have a long way to go here. But most especially, I want to appreciate parents, because for me, I've seen more parents take action to help their kids with dyslexia than teachers, and I really want to applaud the parents that are standing up to help their children with dyslexia.
Parents are the best, really. Parents are the best, you know. Thank you for sharing this experience with us. It's a lot, you know, to think that Ashley heard about dyslexia 30 years ago. Manobina heard about dyslexia almost 20 years ago. I mean, you just heard about dyslexia barely 8 years ago. And
Exactly.
Jaranji just like 9 years ago. So that we are still very far behind, but we'll keep talking, we keep doing what we have to do. Someday we'll get that. That's the essence of what we're doing. Today, let's see what is happening in different parts of the world. Thank God for, I would say thank God for what COVID has done to us. It has made the world a global community where we can actually reach out and say, look, these are our challenges. What have you done in your part of the world to ensure that these individuals get help? You know, literacy, you can never underplay the role of literacy, ability to be able to read and write in whatever language it is. And then it's so disturbing. Let me use that word, if I may use that word for lack of a better word, that, you know, we in different, like in India, I know you have several languages. And just like Manobina explained, they can only diagnose about in 4 languages, right? Out of, I mean, I've been to India now, like I couldn't even pick the one. Is it Malayalam or whatever? I'm like, which one? I just talk to my English, like if I wanted to learn, is it Hindi? Which do I learn? So you can imagine what is going on in India. So do you mean only those 4 languages would be educated, would be helped? How about in Nigeria? Do we have the tools that is customized to be ours? Because we have several languages here too. Yes, our official language is English, but then we all know that dyslexia is a language-based disability. So it doesn't have to be like if a child, because I know that in America, when they actually will tell us about that, when you're trying to diagnose a child, they don't just speak English, they try to also interpret it in the child's language so that you don't just misdiagnose or misrepresent whatever the child is going through. So there's a lot to be done, but I believe that the more we speak, the more we hear, we'll learn. Like I always say, on Standing Up with Special Needs, we're here to learn, unlearn, relearn, and just keep tweaking and see how we can make things better for individuals with disabilities. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. We're coming back to you, Ms. Blessing. Now, Jaranji, how has it been when you found, I know you had to travel out, and then you came back to your country and you were able to put a name to what was going on, and then your foundation started something. How has it been? What has been the level of acceptance? You know, in this part of the world, in Africa, we believe that children are just ladies. You need to handle them with, you have to be more tough with them. You need to be more strict. I think they're just being lazy. That's what we just keep talking about. But it's beyond that. We know that it has a lot to do with, yes, we have a part to play when it comes to behavior modification or management. But then beyond that, how has it been? Because I know you support schools. Because another challenge that I realized is that schools have to open their doors. They need to open their minds. They need to understand learning styles of children. They need to understand that children have different ways of learning. As a matter of fact, I also think that the way schools or teachers teach also could be a part of the reasons why we have a lot of children who are now termed to be dyslexic, in the sense that it might be the strategy that the teachers used to teach, or the way the teachers are trained. Because I know I know for a fact here that I've met quite a number of children who I've got to observe them in the classroom, and hearing the teacher teach, I can say like 90% for sure say that, look, these children are not living with dyslexia, but because of the way the instructions have been put to them, somehow they've lost interest. They're not able to catch up, and then before you know it, the gap gets wider, and then they're being categorized as children living with dyslexia. So I'll let you speak about what is going on in Malawi when it comes to dyslexia.
Well, I think it's exactly the same thing that is happening in Nigeria, that is happening in India. There's so many problems, and then for us it's even worse because, like I said, we are the first NGO to raise the awareness of dyslexia. So it has only been 2 years. So yeah, so in that 2 years, I wouldn't say we've done much work, but at least you can see that gap, like from 0 to 10. But yeah, we're still climbing the ladder. So with the schools, it's more like the private schools are okay, whereby they know there's learning difficulties. The international schools, they understand, break down the whole learning difficulty. But the public schools, there is zero, nothing. So you go to public schools, and then the other thing is, because special needs education in Malawi, it's very new. So when they finish the course, they send them into zones. So you're talking of one zone having maybe 20 primary schools. So you're talking of one special needs educator for 20 schools. How do you expect that person to really help anyone? And then these schools, like the classrooms, you're talking of maybe 60, 100 kids in one school. Yeah, so with the private schools, you go there, you talk about dyslexia, they will tell you that they've never heard about it. And those people who've heard about it, or the teachers that now with the trainings, like online trainings, they're reading about it, and then they get to know about them. And then when they see that there is a child who's got learning difficulties, and then they will do a refer, like they'll send maybe to us, like, oh, you know, there's this NGO, they're doing about learning difficulties. Maybe you should talk to them, but not like them saying, I'm a teacher, let me do something to help the child, or let me talk to the parents or anything. I remember there was one scenario like 3 months ago. This is like a well-known private school, like a very good school. And then they referred the child to us. You know what they told the parents? They just said, your child has got a problem, but there's this NGO that talking about the same problems that your child has. So maybe if you meet the lady from there, they will be able to help you. There's a problem with your child. So these people, they're coming to us, they're like, I mean, our child is not sick or doesn't have any problem. Are you telling us that, you know?
It can't be in school?
Yeah. So I'm like, no, the school should be able to explain to you that there is this condition, maybe your child is like this, needs to be assessed, needs to be screened, and all those things. But then the level of understanding from the teachers as well to give the information to parents, like there is nothing there. So there is a huge gap, and a lot of work has to be done here.
Wow, I can imagine. And I think it's almost like our story in Nigeria, where you're wondering, why should a child with dyslexia not be able to learn with his or her mate simply because the school does not understand, the teacher does not understand, and then they make that child look like an outcast. It shouldn't be. Now, coming to Ashley, thank you so much, Jiranji, for sharing that. Ashley, I think you are, I'm going to call you, I think we have a class lead. We have a class rep already in class. I think we're going to make you the school head, because your experience just says, look, let's listen. She has the answer. Let's listen. So we want you to, based on what, and I intentionally wanted to be the last to speak, particularly when I asked this question, because I know your story. I know you. You are a parent who has, it just reminds me of the story, the movie by Nessie, the Micah, and how the mother went all the way to do what she could to help the child. Now, looking back, your story is a success story with your child, but hearing all that you've heard from us, from India, from Malawi, Nigeria, and looking back at your own story and the struggles and what you've been able to achieve, could you share a part of your story related with all that you've heard from India, from Malawi, and Nigeria? And let's now think of what can we do, even in our little pockets, from the Blessing to Manobina to Generanji to myself. What ideas can we borrow from what you're doing in the US, from your experiences, and how you've been able to put something together that seems to be working? I know the first factor is that the government is quite supportive. Their bodies are supporting what is happening. But then hearing our story, knowing where you're coming from, how do you think we can make much more difference beyond what we're doing? But we want to hear your story and want you to relate it tightly what you've heard so far, and then we come up with some form of ways we can begin to help in these different parts of the world.
So dyslexia here in the States is still a rather significant struggle. we do have a federal law that is supposed to protect our children, but it is a federal law that is enforced by the parents and not really by anybody else. The law is constantly violated on a daily basis across our schools for our kids across this entire country. There is, there are a lot of families who don't want to say the word. They feel that if they label their child with the word dyslexia, that they're giving their child an excuse to not try. And that's not the case at all. While I was listening to everybody speak, what sort of struck me is, we all know this to be true, but maybe it's the lack of frame, is to accept dyslexia, especially in the classroom, means that you have to challenge what you already know. You have to challenge your preconceptions about how you teach and what education is. Because when you're dyslexic, you're not disabled. There's nothing about you that's broken. It's purely that you take in language in a different way. But at least here in the States, with our educational system, we treat dyslexia as though it is a disability. We're not educating our kids in the manner in which they need to be educated to their intelligence levels. So our education system is making dyslexia be a disability lifelong for our children, because if you can't read well enough, dyslexia is a disability. As an adult, it's always going to be something that is a challenge. We have 32 million adults in this country that can't read at all. 80% of our prison population are struggling readers, and 48% of our prison population is dyslexic that never really learned how to read. We're creating a rather significant issue because we're flat out refusing to acknowledge it and teach it properly. For us, we were successful only because my husband and I invested privately for what our child needed from a remediation point of view. I have fought the school for 4 years. I'm going to keep fighting them for another 7 until he graduates from high school here. And it's going to be a fight. It's always going to be a fight because they don't understand it. They don't understand the law. They don't understand what he needs. And that's kind of one of the biggest realizations I've also had in the last year was, parents go into this thinking that the schools just know so much more than they do. And what I finally come to realize is from the get-go, I have known more about dyslexia and more about the law than anybody that's ever sat across the table from me within the school environment. But we have to challenge what we think we know. We have to be willing to open our minds to new levels of understanding and ask ourselves, am I really reaching all of my children in how I'm teaching? Could I be challenging my own teaching methodologies in a way that I could potentially reach more of my children? We know for a fact that the science of reading, structured literacy, works for all children. At least, and we know how the brain learns how to read, and that's universal across gender and language. We know exactly how the brain takes in and processes language. We simply have to accept that. We have to do it. We have to be willing to implement that across all of our classrooms. And if we can do that, the word dyslexia, the label dyslexia, doesn't have to be a stigma thing, because again, there's nothing wrong with our children. They're not broken. They just learn differently. And if you do teach them correctly, you do actually rewire the synapses in the brain. There's nothing to prevent our children from being just as successful as their, normative peer. We just have to accept it, and we have to do it. But that would go a long way to removing the concept that dyslexia is a stigma that should be feared, because it shouldn't be.
Wow. I hear you say, like you answer the question in just a few minutes, and I could pick what you said. One, teachers. That means it's not the role of just the government. Like you have policies in place. You have you have the law that protects, that's meant to protect. Just like we also have policies in Nigeria, and of course, I'm sure you have policies in Malawi that protect individuals with disability. Manobina, am I right? You also, I'm sure you do. You do. And what Ashley said, I think the first place is the knowledge of what the policy is. I always say that in this part of the world where I am in, we have quite a number of policies, but implementation and prosecution of those who break or who go against those policies, really nobody's going to do anything about it, really, for some reason. Okay, so that's one. So I think we need to understand what all the law says about protection of individuals with disability. And actually said something quite profound, when we look, and that's another thing I want us to just take a look at briefly. But before we do that, I want us to go on a short break real quick. We'll go on a 1 minute break, and then I'll get back, try and tie up what Ashley had said, and then I'll go to the next question. So just stay right there, get water, stretch your leg for a minute, and then we'll be right back. Thank you.
Hey, it's October again, a month recognized each year as Dyslexia Awareness Month, all across the world. It's a time to come together to raise awareness, share resources, and tell stories about dyslexia successes. Globally, it is estimated that dyslexia occurs in at least 1 in 10 people, putting more than 7 million children and adults worldwide at risk of lifelong illiteracy and social exclusion. In Nigeria, there are more than 1.5 million cases of dyslexia every year. But the good news is that 90% of children with dyslexia can be educated in a regular inclusive classroom using the right strategies. The Cadet Academy, in partnership with Nessie Learning Global, provides strategies for teaching students with dyslexia. Studies have shown that these strategies are beneficial to students with dyslexia as well as their non-dyslexic peers who are learning how to read. For more information, please visit www.cacademy.sch.ng/dyslexia.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Good to have you all back. And I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Manobina. I know it's almost night. It's almost bedtime at your end. Ashley had to wake up really early to be able to join us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for this sacrifice. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to everyone watching this, because there's so much we can learn. And you didn't just, you could have just gone to bed. It's a Sunday evening. You need to get ready for school tomorrow, Manobina. Ashley has quite a lot to do, but she still chose to be here. I want to thank you, Geranji. Blessing has been she's having a series of programs this month, but then we know that we must do something, and we can't keep quiet. So I want to thank everyone, all of our audience that keep coming in, week out, so that we can all learn to make a difference in the lives of individuals with disability. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now let's go back to what we're talking about. So Ashley was giving us instances, and I wanted to try and paraphrase or recap all that she had said. She mentioned about the law, and she said, yes, the law is meant to protect, but a lot of people break the law, which is almost universal. Like even here in this part of the world, I'm sure it's the same that takes place in Ghana, in Malawi, in India. But then I know that we all have to keep speaking up. We can't just get, there's nothing we can do. Since there's a law, then there must be a prosecution, or there must be, if anybody decides to break the law, we must speak out. But how do we speak when we do not even know what to speak about? So I'm thinking we all need to equip ourselves with the knowledge of what is in the law that protects individuals with disability. And then again, I was trying to say something, just like what, thank you so much for reiterating that. Just like what Ashley said. She said, look, there's a way, and that's another thing. The way somebody was saying, I think I was in the gathering, and the person is from, I think, Indonesia or Malaysia, and said, why do we say it's a disability? And I know that in America, because you have to qualify to access support and services, and that's why there must be a name there must be a diagnosis, and you must qualify, it must be diagnosed, and that's why learning disability is one of the categories of disability under the Individuals with Disability Education Act. But then there's been this tussle of, we should call it a difference and not a disability. And I'm like, that's a topic for another day. But a very valid point that Ashley mentioned was about, why do we look at it from a negative point of view? It's a difference. Different children learn differently. You could even have twin children, you could have triplets, they will all exhibit their traits in different ways. So the ability to also open our eye and be accepted. She said something about challenge what you are used to, challenge what you know. What can I do differently? It's as simple as having a reflection as a classroom teacher. What did I do differently today? What can I do better to ensure that Femi, Jacob, Aki, Geranji, my class, everyone get to understand what I'm trying to teach. So it's almost about, like I keep saying, it should be the student-centered learning, and not just I am the alpha and the omega of this class. Whatever I say goes. Challenge what you know. Challenge what you're already used to. Challenge your teaching methodology. That's talking to teachers. The first point was, let's know what the law says. Let's empower ourselves with the law. Let whoever decides not to follow what the law says, let's challenge them. Let's speak out, okay? Then secondly, and that goes for parents too, teachers, parents, everyone, let's know what the law says. Let's understand what's going on. And then secondly, challenge what you're used to as a classroom teacher. Our job as teachers is to make a difference. This as precious life plays in our hands. Can we go get trained? Can we find out how the child learned? Can we just do something differently? Can we do research? Can we attend conferences? Can we come to gatherings like this and hear what is new? Imagine just 2% of the population of teachers in Nigeria have ever heard of the word dyslexia, and they do not even know what is going on. For example, I know that I've been speaking a lot with Nessie, and I know they have a lot of free trainings, particularly this month. They have resources to equip us on what dyslexia is and how to teach. That thing for the years. Just teach me. I know there's something, but what can you do to teach me to ensure that I learn? And then, yes, as a parent, please keep advocating for your children. Fight for your child. I'll still want Ashley to share a bit of what the story looks like when she said, I keep fighting, I'm still going to continue to fight. We'll come back to you, Ashley, because we need to learn. We need to keep ourselves on how to fight, and fight from the winning point of view. Not just fighting to make trouble, but fighting from the knowledgeable point of view to make sure that you access what your child needs to access. We'll get to that. But let's go back to India. Let's travel all the way back to India now. Now, Manobina, I know you are in a school, and I know your heart beats a lot for children with dyslexia and other disabilities. What has it been like? I mean, I know you're advocating for these individuals. What success stories have you had? Have you recorded in the last few years? I'm trying to place a scenario. Just tell us a particular case story. Let's pick a case story about a child. But for example, the child that you said that the school head said, we can't tell the parents that. How is this child right now? Have you been able to explain what is going on? Have the parents taken it? How is the child? What kind of support is the child getting? And how is the child doing? Miss Blessing mentioned about people saying, no, they can't learn. Let them go for vacation now, training, and all of that. What is happening with this child right now? Please tell us.
See, there are a handful of success stories in this huge country, India. So I really don't want to be boastful about it, because I don't think that we could have done anything, because it's a huge country with a huge population and only the handful of success stories. Yes, in my school, Saransh Foundation, there are quite a few students who have transferred to the mainstream school after the intervention and remediation that we offered them. So you can take it as success stories. There are a few students, but I really don't think that it's a success in the true sense of the term, because the population is huge. As I was telling you before, that there are many challenges in India, specifically challenges in diagnosis. But the real challenges surface when a child is diagnosed with dyslexia. There is hardly any teachers training course for dyslexia is available in India that is approved by the Rehabilitation Council of India, RCI, the licensed body for special education teachers. A handful of centers or schools that are running in metropolitan cities are trying their best to provide accommodations, not remediation, accommodations for dyslexic children. There are provision for accommodations for dyslexic students in the centrally conducted school leaving examination, the policy and the law, as you said. So it is there in India as well. The children who have dyslexia get accommodation in very few setups, but intervention is provided by even fewer setups. The majority of state-run schools are yet to recognize and accept dyslexia. The private sector contributes to nearly 40% share in enrollment of K-12 students in India. Sadly, dyslexia is rarely recognized even in those schools. And the high teacher-student ratio, 1:40 or 50, as Joranji said, it's 100 maybe in Malawi in a classroom. Here in India, it's between 40 and 60. And the lack of teaching assistants in classroom is only one teacher and maybe 50 children in a classroom. So this scenario neither allows a teacher to provide special attention to a dyslexic child, nor the freedom to be a little more innovative in classrooms. So in most cases, the child goes undiagnosed, fails in examinations, and eventually has to leave the school. The teachers who have done specialized dyslexia courses from foreign universities cannot get their qualification recognized by the Rehabilitation Council of India, RCI. The special educators, so-called special educators who have done any RCI approved course such as mental retardation or maybe for hearing impairment, etc., they are only authorized to provide intervention to dyslexic children in schools. So the Indian society is yet to become inclusive. The word disability is still used widely in India. Terms such as learning differences or learning difficulty are virtually unknown even among the educated people in day-to-day life. So India has a long, long way to go to give due recognition to its dyslexic population. The practical difficulties of being a multilingual country cannot be ignored, but spreading awareness, I think, is key to success. Yeah. So there are few passionate people and organizations like ours here and there of this huge country, and they are trying their best. And as I said, very few success stories are also getting noticed. But these organizations, my friend, they are fighting a grim battle, and they need much more resources and help from every possible source.
Wow.
So I really don't want to say that, yes, I have many success stories, or yes, I have a few, but that is nothing. They're nothing.
I think I understand where you're coming from, but then remember, we are meant to also talk about the success stories of dyslexia. And I'm going to rephrase that question. I'm coming back to you. I want you to pick a child whom you know has done quite well and tell us the strength of this child so that people can see the other side of individuals living with dyslexia. And I want everyone to do that. But thank you so much, Manobina, for being, like, every time we're finding out with special, we bear it as it is. There's no need to sugarcoating anything. These are the challenges we are having. How can we get support? How can we get help? What can we do differently to make the world a better place for individuals who are living with any form of disability, be it dyslexia, autism, whatever it is? Thank you. Now, I picked something. I actually had that question before you said, I'm like, oh, thank God you mentioned that. And I think I want Ms. Blessing to answer this question. You know, just the way it is back in India, the issue of Where do we draw the line? Where do we start from? Do we just provide accommodation and modification and intervention? What should we do first? Which I know what should be done should be intervention and then modification and accommodation. But then I think the challenge is because we've not enough professional, let's accommodate, and then we're not able to find monitor the progress of the children, so to say. So, Miss Blessing, from your experience, and I'm asking you this practical question because that's what you do on a daily basis. You go into schools to provide intervention, okay? And I'm sure you're also advocating for accommodation for these children. What is it like? I know that a lot of people, and that's a common thing in this part of the world, where they say, they're just being lazy. Oh, you do to stop with this child. You need to be more firm, you know. I know you've had such reactions from teachers and from schools because we talk about some of those things. But then I wanted you to look at the aspect of intervention and accommodation. How do they go? How are they been for you? And how have you been able to put this two together to provide support and advocacy for these children?
Okay, especially for schools, I love to always give examples to drive it home. When I offer intervention for schools, and there was this particular child that I don't go every day with the plan the parents had. I had to be there just 3 times a week, and they were writing exams at a particular time. So I came over as usual to check. I wasn't even meant to be around that period because they were writing exams. I came over to check because the arrangement we had was that, yes, right now she's going through reading intervention, but it doesn't mean that she's dumb. She understands. So you can help her with a question and she'll tell you the right answer.
Hold on. I need us to be careful with what we use because people are saying, oh, it's cheating, you're helping. So you need a scribe to read to her? Is that what you're saying?
Reading to her, which is the accommodation, like what we're saying.
Please, let's do, because
for her.
I've heard people say, oh, they want to cheat. They reading to the child is cheating. No. Go on, please.
Yeah, that's so true because most times when we tell schools this, they say, no, that's cheating. We're even excited that this school was willing to, because like you were talking about schools opening their doors, some do not agree to open their doors. Some will say, no, that is cheating. Nobody's going to read for this child. We're going to treat her or him the same way we are treating every child and all of that. So back to the story. So I came over, I looked at her worksheet exam questions, and I read them, and I noticed that 80% of them, the answers were wrong. So I picked a few and I asked her the question, and I told her the options that were there, and she gave me the right option. I said, okay, so why did you choose this answer? For some, she said, well, she didn't know, she just chose the one she liked, or she just saw a word that she understands and picked the word that she understands. And I told the teacher, I spoke to the head teacher, that there is something called accommodation. Yes, this child is going through an intervention with me, but then right now the doors should be open for her to receive accommodation, because she might not be able to read fluently yet like her peers, but when it's read to her, she understands. And I was also explaining to them that intervention is a process. Yes, it gets to that point where she reads, but then we need to move to that point where she needs to also comprehend. So this is not a 1 week thing, a 2 month thing, a 3 month thing. This can go on for a while. So does that mean we're going to keep this child at home and she won't go to school again just because she can't read yet? Like I love to say, when it comes to children with dyslexia, I mean, they're not reading yet is just like 2% of what makes them. How about the other 90% of the amazing things that they can do? Do we have to put their life on a hold just because they can't read yet? So, I mean, when it comes to, also sometimes it also comes to intervention and accommodation, just like you mentioned, schools feel that we're being we are pampering them. I mean, these kids are just being stubborn. There is nothing wrong with them. And like I say, it's because they see the intelligent part. So they just assume that if you're this intelligent, I mean, how can I tell you that this word is cat? And then tomorrow you see the same word and you don't remember. No, you're being naughty, you're being stubborn. And when all of this come upon that child with dyslexia, there is a reflex action, which is a behavior issue that comes up because they are trying to defend themselves and all of that. So you just get into multiple issues. So I hope I answered the question with my plenty stories. But when we offer interventions for children, we also let the school understand that these kids need to also be accommodated. There needs to be an accommodation for them while they go through the intervention.
Absolutely. And that's why and our case is quite peculiar in Nigeria. And I'm sure it's almost the same in India and in Malawi, because the IEP, the Individualized Education Plan, should have stated all of the accommodation and the intervention and how things will go and will run smoothly. But most times, because we're not all together, so to say. So Malawi will come from our organization to speak on behalf of the child in a school. You would come because the parent has reached out to you and you want to provide support. And the school's like, oh, we're not sure. IEP, do we really need that? And we don't know the process and all of that. It's more like tussle and all of that. So I'm happy we're discussing this, and I know it would help us to chart the pathway on the right thing to do when it comes to individuals with dyslexia. I want to come quickly to Ashley, because I keep using Ashley using that story and that case and the allocation like a yardstick for us to write on. I know it's not all perfect over there, and I know that, I believe that because of how the value that is placed on education in some developed countries, things still work better in some parts of the world as opposed to some other parts where we're still trying to figure out what to do. And the question I have for Ashley right now is, just like I asked Blessing about the issue of intervention and accommodation,
And I think she froze. Or am I the one that froze?
Yeah.
Let me just write to her.
Okay, she'll be back soon. Yes, I believe so. But actually, I believe she was trying to find out what it has been like over there in the US regarding all that I have said and Manubina has said as well. So maybe you can go on while we wait for her to connect back.
Yes. And I'm unmuted. Okay, good. So accommodations versus remediation is a difficult thing, I think, for people to understand kind of in general. Remediation is, of course, teaching the child how to actually read, write, spell, all of the things that are related to language, right? And then you have the accommodations, which create the access to grade level content or school content and enables them to function on the same level as their peers in their classroom. There's a lot of misunderstanding here in this country that, some people do think, like you were saying, Blessing, that accommodations are cheating, and it's not cheating. One of the biggest examples we use here is, so take a test without your glasses. And, have to take the test off of, the teacher's written it on the chalkboard or something, and you've got to read it off the chalkboard and get it all right. It's the same sort of thing as having the question read to you if you're dyslexic. And if your fluency and your accuracy and your comprehension are struggling because you're dyslexic and you haven't been remediated to your full capacity yet, then you really need to have those questions read to you. But two, the accommodations are a means for our kids to be able to keep up with their peers inside of the classroom. My son is more severe than mild with his dyslexia. He's also dysgraphic. Because of his dysgraphia, he very much needs speech to text based tools to be able to write what he needs to for his classroom assignments. He has the text to speech so that he can keep up with the pace, the speed that's happening inside of the classroom itself. So he has those tools available to him that will read the content to him, so that he can perform in a shorter amount of time period than it would take him to do it on his own. But one of the biggest issues is people that are trying to use accommodations in order to avoid remediation. Let's hand the kid a scanning pen instead of actually teaching them how to read, so that the scanning pen will do all the reading for them instead of actually teaching them how to actually read. And that's a significant issue that we fight in this country is, okay, well, the child's going into 5th grade, or so my son is 11, so he just started secondary school. We call it junior high here, or middle school is one of the other terms. It's harder to get them to provide remediation at this level. They just want to hand them assistive technology tools as accommodations in order to help them learn how to read instead of actually teaching them how to read. Unfortunately, we have too great of an instance of our children graduating from public school reading 10 grades below grade level, but they're still handed a diploma because somebody's just handed them the assistive technology tools as a accommodation instead of actually remediating their needs. And so that's a challenge. Lola's back.
Okay, yes, she's back. Welcome back.
Thank you for holding the ground. And I was just at peace because these things happen, and I told myself I'm not going to get flustered about poor internet connection. So I'm super proud of you, ladies. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, what did I miss?
Okay, Ashley was talking about accommodation and remediation it was quite interesting.
Great. I'll watch that. So I had a question for Ashley again on accommodation, and I want to apologize again. Sorry, my bad. I apologize to everyone that I was yanked out, and I'm back again. We'll be done in a few minutes, I promise you. So, Ashley, there's this issue of when it comes to accommodation and intervention, and when to use technology. So, for example, a few people are of the opinion that, if we're thinking of remediation or intervention, and then we're thinking of accommodation, like the use of the reading pen and some other tools, text to speech, how and when do we draw the line? At what age, at what point do we say intervention has gotten to a particular level where we can begin to use augmentative or assistive technology? Could you please shed a little bit of light on that?
So I think accommodations through assistive technology need to be provided if you think of, so I'm a very visual person, and I'm also kind of because of what I do for a living, I tend to think of things in a mathematical way. So if you think of an X and Y axis, right, and you've got pressure of school rising, and you have the other variables of the ability to read, the ability to write, to perform within the classroom, etc. Where do those two axes meet on that graph? That's where assistive technology really needs to come into play for the child. However, not at the expense of remediation. Assistive technology should simply be those tools that help the child maintain their ability to function within the classroom environment, but never as an excuse against remediation. Our children can learn to read, write, spell, do absolutely everything that everybody else can. And that should never end until the child reaches that level of success. Assistive technology should purely be to be able to function within a class or in a work environment, to be able to function in a classroom or a workroom environment, but never at the expense of either.
Great. I need us to just talk about that because we've had, and I think it's also boils down to what you said from the beginning, saying challenge what you're used to. Don't get comfortable. Don't look for the short or easy way out.
Right.
Have you checked yourself? Have that empowerment? What are the trainings available? What do I need to know? This child can learn. What do I do to ensure that the child learns the way he or she is able to, as opposed to looking for quick fix. Oh, let's just do it, because how sustainable would that be? Thank you so much for that, Ashley. Now, I want us to use the few minutes I have left to talk about the success stories, because we could sit here for hours. I keep talking about all the negativity and keep nagging and talking about how we have not been accepted, how the children have not been seen. But let's look at and celebrate the strength we've seen in dyslexic individuals. We know a lot of popular dyslexia heroes. If we go back, it's one person that we all keep talking about. What's his name again? Virgin Atlantic was the founder of Virgin Atlantic. What's his name? I keep forgetting his name.
Richard Branson.
Bradford and all that. But I want us to now look like, and that was what I'm trying to ask Manovina. What's that person you can pick in your country that you know that, look, this person is living with dyslexia. Let's even leave out America. We know America had gone all the way, and you have all your celebrities that are living with dyslexia and be able to figure it out. Who are our own heroes? What are the successes? What are the strengths? Even we cannot even say that heroes yet. What are those unique things that we've seen about these individuals? And we can actually say, look, for example, this person was able to do this. I can't do that. I know of a child. Let me even start with myself. I know of a child. I have a child that we work with. Miss Bessie knows this child. Listen, this child is living with dyslexia, and I think she's able to now put three. She's able to read 3-letter words, and she's moving to 2-syllable words and all of that. But do you know what? This child, she wants to be a teacher, and guess what? She's so good at we call it MC in Nigeria, Master of Ceremony, where you have an event and you just tell her what's going to happen. She's so bold, and she goes hold the mic and say, look, and she just goes and just keep talking. Oh, we have this right now, let's give it up. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not this bold. But imagine if I say, oh, there's nothing good that come out of you, you can't read, so what do we need to tell you? All you need to do is just to work out through what is going to happen, and this child will take over this event and run it from the beginning to the end. I've had to do this with her, and I'm amazed at the skills. When she talks to you, she remembers things, she tells, and I'm like, oh, if we keep saying, oh, this child is living with dyslexia, and we just look at the negative aspect, when are we going to get to celebrate this child's strength? So I want you to please pick one or two people, and let's talk about the success stories we've seen, the experiences we've had, and let people know that yes, we have this side, but then we have the good story and the good success story part. So who's going to start? Do I start from home, or do I go abroad? Ashley, Ashley, tell us your success story. Tell us about your child, please.
Oh my gosh. So my child, 4 years ago, my child could not tell you all of the sounds of the letters of the alphabet in the English language. And that was so our grades here run kindergarten. We call it kindergarten, and then you've got 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. So you have 13 years of public education here in the States. So he was at the end of 1st grade, and he could not tell you all of the sounds of the letters of the alphabet. Most 3-year-olds in this country, pretty much all 3-year-olds in this country can sing the song. So you think that they can tell you the letters of the alphabet, right? My child could sing the song, but he didn't understand the correlation between the song and the letters, and then the letters to their sounds. Mm-hmm. So 4 years ago, my child was absolutely not a reader at all. But through 4 very hard, very dedicated years where, he didn't get to play with his friends so many nights a week because he went to a private tutor. But 4 years later, he's comprehending text 2 grade levels ahead of where he is. When he was in 4th grade, so this was 3 years after he hit the wall. So he was in 4th grade. He said to me, Mom, I've never been able to read until now, but now I think I know how to read finally. And he was so proud of himself. So that was one of the bright moments of our life, was when he finally called himself a reader. He doesn't like to read. He still doesn't like to. But if I will buy him graphic novels, I'll find him sitting in a corner reading a graphic novel, and he loves it. So it's just, you know, perseverance, and that little kid just pulled himself up by his bootstraps and he just did it.
Wow. Well done.
Wow.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
Well done. I think I'm going to go to Geranji. Geranji, could you please share one or two success stories with us, friends of that individual who you know who is dyslexic?
Well, that would be me.
Yay.
Because first of all, I'm not a teacher. And how I got here is because I understand. You know, like when you understand a problem, like maybe that's the reason why I understand my niece very much, or that much, because like I can see myself in her, a little bit of me in her. So, well, I wouldn't say I had problems in school. I don't know how I managed until now. Sometimes I ask myself, like, how did I manage? But after reading about dyslexia and everything, I'll be like, that's me, that's me. Until today, even today, I always pick, like, when I read something about dyslexia, I'll be like, that's exactly me. But how I maneuvered everything, it's just God's grace. And I always put it back to say, maybe because it was my calling. So he knew me then that I'm going to be like this. I'm going to lead people who are also like me. So it was more like, but yeah, that's me. You know when you're struggling with things or you don't know things, and then you get to a point where you have to be a leader over an organization, whereby you're learning every day. I'm telling you, I'm learning from all of you. I don't know, and every time I go for a meeting with the ministers or whatever, Nigeria is always on the list. Like I'm learning from my Nigerian sisters.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm like, and blessings. Your name, it's really a blessing to get to know you, because you kind of open doors to a lot of avenues that I never thought I would get in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm that success story whereby I'm leading an organization and people say, "Oh, you're very intelligent. Oh, you're like this," but inside me, I'm like, I'm struggling. I have to really prepare to really do anything, but well, I'm doing it. So I'm that child.
The dyslexia hero for Malawi. Yay, there goes Geranji. Well done, Geranji. I'm proud of you. Really. Well done. Well done. I'm going all the way to India. Manubina, share with us those successes, those heroes. No matter how little, please let the world know about these heroes.
I had a student rather, in high school when I got to know him. He could hardly read anything, and he was in grade 9 at that point of time. And the school authorities were thinking of asking him to leave school. And at that point, I took it as a challenge, and I walked with him. He was very good in mental mathematics. Mentally, he was a genius, I must say. He was a genius. But in the writing part and reading part, while it was reading, he used to have a lot of difficulties. And I walked with him. He passed his, with some accommodations, of course, with a writer. During his school leaving examination, he passed with 91% of marks.
Wow.
And now he is studying physics in a university.
Wow.
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 So,
It's worth celebrating.
I
Please.
really have tears in my eyes whenever I think about him. But yes, but yeah, we have a long way to go.
Absolutely.
We have a long way to go. Let's see what we can do.
Wow.
And collaboration is the key to success in this, I think. So we must collaborate, all of us, in any part of the
Absolutely.
world. And that
Yes.
is why that I for inclusion was born, right? So we must collaborate and we must share our stories, we must
Yes.
share resources, and maybe we will be able to do what we want to do for dyslexia.
Yes, absolutely. Now, the queen, the Dyslexia Help Africa, the Dyslexia coach, you're coming to you. I mean, she's done. I'm super. I'm always so proud of her. I can't hide it.
Yeah.
She's done
Yeah.
great,
Thank you,
great.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank
I'm always
you.
like, and I know she had a lot of stories for us. As a matter of fact, as I'm speaking now, Miss Blessing, we need to celebrate
Yes,
our Nigerian heroes. So if we can,
yes.
every day we need to trade out there on social media and keep
Mm-hmm.
rubbing it in the face about our heroes of dyslexia. So share one or two with us today as we round up.
Okay, I'll share two. I'll share a popular one, and then I'll share one of my students. There are a lot of dyslexia heroes there, but I think there's one that I have a personal relationship with, and that is Donyi. And I really love her story because she had gone through a lot, not just in school because of her inability to do certain things, but even at home and with the society. Now, it was so bad that her last resort was to commit suicide.
Oh,
But hopefully, a friend had stepped in and she didn't. And today, I'm so proud of the amazing work that she's doing personally. I mean, I've seen the movies that she has worked with her team to produce. And because of her dyslexia strengths, which she's been able to put in helping the production of those movies, they truly have come out amazing. And the great things that she's also doing with her organization, One Word Organization, whereby over 90% of people on her team are dyslexic. And I mean, they have events,
We must
they
celebrate
organize
these heroes. We
programs. I
must.
mean,
If you're with
they
me on this,
do,
say yeah, yeah, yeah. We're gonna
yeah,
celebrate them throughout this
exactly.
month. Our Nigerian dyslexia heroes. We're gonna celebrate even the Malawians. We're gonna celebrate the
Mm-hmm.
Ghanaians. We're just gonna throw it all out there.
Exactly.
Yes, we are. We are
Exactly.
special. We're unique. We're different. You know, Oladoyin says something. We're not going to. We're not begging. We're here
Yes,
to show you how
yeah.
unique and how
Yeah.
different and how
exactly.
special we are to exhibit our
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
talent and our strength. And we're here throughout this month celebrating this individual. We're going to show the pictures, the
Yes,
accomplishments. We're going to rub it in. We're going to
that's
really rub
right.
it in.
So I'm
Yeah.
so proud of her work and all that
Yeah.
she does, you know. Yes. And then my 15-year-old, and I started taking her, she's like the latest success story. Started taking her during the COVID period when the parents were looking for help. And it's actually an online class. And when we started the intervention and I had to screen her and check a few things, I mean, the mom told me that she was in JS3. I think that's what class is
Yeah.
that
I'm
in the
talking
US?
night
Anyway, she
grade,
was,
night grade,
yeah, she was,
night grade.
yes, she was in JS3, but she didn't know her sounds. I mean, sounds of the alphabet, which should be the basic at 15. And you know, she's even on the big side. So if you see her, you even think that she's probably getting to her 20s. And I was like, wow. Wow, okay. So I told the mom we have to go back to the beginning because where she was and the work she was doing in just three class, I mean, she was learning, you know, when in Nigeria, yeah, we know that when you're in that kind of class, you're not learning how to read there. You're
No.
learning more complicated
So
things. And
yeah,
here
the
is
gap
a
is just
child.
getting wider and wider.
Yes. I mean, so we started with the sound from the basics. And I must tell you, for that first 1 month, it felt like we're going to stay on letter D for a very, very long time. I mean, the mom was like, is she ever going to learn it? I said, yes. We just have to keep looking for different ways, multi-sensory approach, different ways in the house to help her remember and help her learn. And I told the mom that, you know, this is just the beginning of the intervention. And from my experience, as we go through the intervention, the brain, you know, the neurodiversity of the brain just begins to adapt and begins to understand this more. I mean, we're able to overcome the letter D. You know, that letter D thing for
I
the mom and
know.
I is quite a special
And
thing, you
letter
know.
K, and I know those where we get stuck. Like, when are we gonna move beyond
Exactly.
this?
Hmm. And right now, I mean, in just 2 months, she has learned her sound, she has learned the vowels, she has learned the 2 letter words, she has learned
Wow.
her CVC words. Right now, she's learning consonant digraphs, and she's already fluent with reading CVC stories. I mean,
Yay!
in just
Wow.
2 months of just teaching her the right way, and she's so
Wow.
smart. I mean, they had spent over 15 years of her life. I mean, but when we look at her, I am the mom, when we look at her, we're just so amazed at the progress she has made and her determination. I mean, she has 2 hours of intervention every day. She's always looking forward to it. I mean, she hits the wall sometimes, but she thinks about it, picks herself up, and then just moves on. And for me, she's such an amazing hero. I mean, she gets me all emotional. And I mean, her future is amazing. I'm so proud of her.
Amazing. Well done. And I wanted to
Yeah.
put this out there again. So everyone, anyone at all, I want us to be able to celebrate our own African dyslexia heroes. Heroes that have done so well. Even if the student, that progress they've made, we need to celebrate them and then feel special. So if you know anyone, go and slide, like people say, slide into my DP, send me a message, the person's name, a number, a picture. We're going to celebrate these individuals if we're going to get permission from them, if they want us to do. And I think it's a good thing out there, so we can also create awareness, celebrate the successes of individuals with dyslexia. So please, Jeranji, get us those names, get us those pictures, get permission from them. Manobina, we need it. Everyone, my page is going to be flooded every day, celebrating our
Yay.
heroes.
Yeah.
Dyslexia Help Africa, we're going to partner to do this. Anyone want to come on board? Reach out to me, send out the picture. We're going to put the country, the picture, and just celebrate them, tell the stories. If we don't tell the real stories, it's going to look perfect. So we're going to tell the stories as much as we can throughout this month and celebrate these individuals. You ladies have been amazing, amazing. I've been having fun. Last week was out of this world. Today has been awesome. I know next week will be and on and on. Actually, I want to say a big thank you to you. Manobina, it's night. I know you need to go to bed. You have classes tomorrow. Geranji, well done. Blessing, well done. Our audience have been super amazing. Everyone, I want to thank you so much. Does anyone add any parting word for any parents, any word of encouragement for that individual who is living with dyslexia and has not gotten help so far, or for that parent who's thinking, is there a future for my child? Anyone among our guests, do you want to speak some word of encouragement to anyone before we wrap it up today? Anyone want to say something?
Okay, let me talk to the teachers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to encourage the teachers, because I know most times some teachers have reached out to me and they really want to help the child, but they just can't because they don't know what to do. And someone wrote on social media once that no matter how much you love a child with dyslexia, if you don't know how to teach them, you're not going to be of much use to them. So I want to encourage them that don't give up on these kids. They can learn. And I know that here in Nigeria, getting training for all of this can be very expensive. That this month is the month to take advantage of all of the free resources that are coming out, and free scholarships. Like our academy, we're also offering free scholarship for teachers to get trained. So an opportunity to dive in, get more information. I believe that with that information, you will be able to help a child with dyslexia. So be encouraged.
Absolutely.
These children will remember you in years to come.
Yes.
I wanted to say, dyslexia is universal. It's, both genders, it's every language, it's every country. We shouldn't be afraid of it. We should embrace it as parents, especially. If you feel like your child is struggling, listen to what your feelings are. And just know that the child is amazing. It can be overcome. This doesn't have to be a disability. It doesn't have to be a stigma. It doesn't have to be something that we're afraid of. Dyslexia can be an amazing thing as long as we don't treat it as a disability. So trust your guts and do everything that you can to help your child.
Wow. Thank you, Ashley. Anyone else?
Yeah, and to all the parents as well. It's October, Dyslexia Awareness Month. They should join us. The more we make noise, the more we get to know about it, the more it'll be easy to talk about it and to tackle it.
And let's not talk
Fantastic.
about the
Anyone from you?
yeah. So it is not a
Yeah,
disability.
Manamina, go on.
Yeah, it is not at all a disability, and let us believe in the concept of neurodiversity. So let us accept everything,
Yep.
spread awareness, and
Yep.
empower each other. That is the mantra or key to success, I think.
Yep.
You are the very best. Each and every one of you. Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone that had stayed with us despite the glitches and all that. I want to thank you all. Nkechi Awe, I see you. Joan Tiza, I see you. Ozioma Ike, Sharon Apis on the Precious. Everyone. Julie Holmes McKinley. I see you, Julie. Thank you for joining us. Wells, everyone, Ibilola, everyone, thank you. And I want to believe that we're all going to make the best of all that we've learned today. Throughout this month, there will be lots of activities, trainings, field trainings, information. We're going to be celebrating our African dyslexia heroes. If you know of anyone, slide to my DM, my Facebook message. Just send me messages. Let's come together. Let's make noise. Let's celebrate success in individuals with dyslexia. It is a strength. It's a learning different. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I want to thank you all. Thank you so
Thank
much. Thank you,
you.
Ashley.
Thank
I
you, Lola.
appreciate you. Thank you, Blessing. I appreciate you. Deranji, I appreciate you. Manobina, I appreciate you. Thank you for giving your best today. I appreciate you. And I want to say thank you to everyone. I want to say my bye for today. Till next week. I want to say bye-bye to you all. Thank you. Have a blessed
Bye.
week. Bye,
You too.
everyone.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, my son, Mr. Peter. You are the very best. I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Alex. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Hey, it's October again, a month recognized each year as Dyslexia Awareness Month, all across the world. It's a time to come together to raise awareness, share resources, and tell stories about dyslexia successes. Globally, it is estimated that dyslexia occurs in at least 1 in 10 people, putting more than 7 million children and adults worldwide at risk of lifelong illiteracy and social exclusion. In Nigeria, there are more than 1.5 million cases of dyslexia every year. But the good news is that 90% of children with dyslexia can be educated in a regular inclusive classroom using the right strategies. The Cadet Academy, in partnership with Nessie Learning Global, provides strategies for teaching students with dyslexia. Studies have shown that these strategies are beneficial to students with dyslexia as well as their non-dyslexic peers who are learning how to read. For more information, please visit www.cacademy.sch.ng/dyslexia.